Howdy everyone. So I got a decent response to my first video and I decided to follow it up, so this makes two, which for me is a bit of a success. Um, I had a topic that I wanted to talk about today, and a good friend of mine from college who I have great conversations with, or used to before he moved away. I'm going to start talking to him again. He brought up a good point on Facebook on the comments thread, and it feeds into what I want to talk about. So, what I want to talk about is drugs. We'll call today's episode The Need for Speed, because Adderall really is amphetamine salts, and that's what most people with ADHD take, to my knowledge, and that's what I take. And I want to talk about it because I know some people are hesitant to use drugs. I know I was a little bit hesitant because, um, it goes back to that idea of, do I really have an issue, or am I just making an excuse? And then you kind of have this fear of taking drugs, especially speed, Adderall, because it is speed, and it's something that some people abuse, and if they abuse it, then why would I want to put that into my body? So I want to address some things that Andrew talked about. I'm going to go into more detail with it, but the basic gist of what he was saying was that where do you draw the line between a character trait and a disorder? And if you are trying to figure out where you're going to draw the line, then that also helps you draw the line between where you accommodate a character trait and try and find jobs and habits and lifestyles that suit those character traits, and when you treat them like you would a disorder as opposed to a character trait. I think it's a valid conversation. I think a lot of what Andrew said was right, and it's something that I want to touch on. And then I am going to talk in more detail about the drug aspect. It's something that's pretty close to me, and you'll understand why later. So basically, I'm going to talk about Andrew's topic, then I want to talk about whether to take drugs, the decision you make then. I'm going to go over a little bit of my daily habit that helps me take drugs, because, like I'm guessing most people with ADHD, following through on habits is something that I always struggled with, and the Adderall can't help if you haven't taken it yet. And then lastly, I want to talk about some of the differences that I see in myself and in my ability to cope with life now that I have the drugs with me. Sound good? I'm going to keep today shorter than 45 minutes for those of you who have a life. Okay? I tend to ramble. We'll deal with it. So I have a trusty whiteboard today because I think it's going to help me with the topic of a character trait versus a disorder. And let me start by saying that I think Andrew is correct. I don't think we do a good job understanding that different people work differently, and we need to accommodate that. And a big part of the problem, I buy into a type of leadership I call service leadership. Well, I don't call it that, that's the name for it. And I learned it in high school and college as a member of Key Club and Circle K. And it's something that there's a special office of service leadership, or servant, it's also called servant leadership, at the college where I went, the Milwaukee School of Engineering. It's a leadership style that I subscribe to. And basically what it says is that as a leader, your job is not to dictate from above, but rather to help the people that you're leading out. The motivation for managing and leading is to make the lives better, to make things better for the people that you're leading and the people that you're working with. And it applies even if you're not a leader, because when you change that philosophy and say, I'm doing something to help out the people around me, then you realize in the workplace we can sometimes mistreat people. And that's what I think you get. People who have ADHD or really any character trait like that sometimes try and subjugate themselves to the rule of traditional management, when in reality I think we do need to find workspaces and that goes beyond just work into our personal lives, habits that fit who we are. So in my case, I'm flat out not going to be able to work for a company that says you must be in by 8:30 and you must leave by 5 o'clock and you must wear this and you must do that. I'm okay with some restrictions. I think you do need to have some standards and whatnot, but when you start having bureaucratic red tape, that doesn't suit me. In the same way, I've learned that I don't mind cubicle farms, but cubicle farms need to be a place where you take advantage of that modularity that the cubicle system has, and allow employees to customize their work area to what they need. Instead, a lot of places help give cubicle farms a bad rap because you're basically in a cheap standard space that everyone has that they can easily put someone else into, and you can't really make it your own. A few pictures on the wall doesn't really help you turn a space into some place you can work. So I really agree with what Andrew's saying, but I do think there's a line that you have to draw, and that's what I want to use my whiteboard to talk about. I think there's two things to consider when you're taking a look at whether to accommodate a character trait or treat it like a disorder and get help for it. Medical professionals, I think, basically say that kind of the general definition, this isn't scientific, is a mental issue becomes a disorder when it disrupts your ability to maintain a good life. So when it starts having an adverse effect on your life, then it becomes a disorder. And there's different requirements for each disorder that play into that. I don't know the specific ones for ADHD, I just know I blow them out of the water. But that's the basic gist, and it kind of goes with what Andrew's saying, that it's a spectrum, and there is no magic line where all of a sudden you have a disorder. It really comes down to how is it affecting your life. So for me, the ADHD was having huge negative effects on my life. There was no doubt it was a disorder. But some people are going to fall closer to that line, and that's where it might become more of a judgment call. But that kind of plays into what I want to draw. So I think you need to evaluate two things when you're considering whether you kind of treat it or how you view the ADHD. And so I'm going to make a little bit of a matrix. Andrew should like that. I hope you like this, Andrew. So on one axis, I'm going to put severity. Boom. Severity. I hope you should be able to read that. It might be backwards, but you get the point. So I'm going to divide it for the, just arbitrarily into three amounts of severity. So you've got the bad, the mid, and the low. So I put low on top, bad on bottom. So as you go down this particular bar, it gets more severe. In my case, I'm probably really close to the bad, and in some cases it's low. Along the top, we're going to put, I'm going to call it malleability. Bust out some mechanical engineering stuff from that 1 year I spent as a mechanical engineer. So on one side I'm going to put changeable. On the other side I'm going to put concrete. And in the middle we'll put mid. Okay, so what I'm describing here is your ability to take a trait or the ADHD in general and through therapy or through other means, fix some of it. So now we have a magical matrix like this. Hopefully it doesn't mirror everything so you can read it, but even if you can't, you get the idea. So now the way I am looking at this, there are going to be different types of traits, and you can start to put some of these traits into this matrix. And actually, for severity, I meant to put bad, good, and sort of middle. Because there are some things with ADHD that, to Andrew's point, are not bad. So for me, there are some good traits. For instance, I tend to be very fast. Andrew knows this. He got really mad one time, and for good reason, because in a persuasive speech class, I forgot we were having a speech the next day, and I took 1 day to write the paper, and I technically didn't follow the rules of the assignment, and yet I got 100 on it. And he, for good reason, was upset. But that's one of the good traits that I have. So that's a good trait. And then when we're talking about malleability, I don't know if I would have predicted this, but after getting some treatment, I realized that's a pretty concrete thing. I moved pretty quick. Now, some people are going to say, how can you say that's a good thing if it affects your attention to detail? But I'm kind of breaking those traits up. So I put speed in as a concrete trait, but a good trait. Attention to detail is one that is most definitely bad, but it's something that I can kind of change. I can't get rid of it completely. I have a low attention to detail. Okay? And then we get this kind of thing in the middle. There are some traits that can be good, and they can be bad. So I didn't think of all these traits ahead of time, so pardon me if it takes just a moment. But in my case, let's say a good thing is, or something that sort of falls in that middle area where it can be good or bad would be, I'm going to call it comedy, in that I feel a need to provide comedic input into conversation. And it can be good in situations and when it's controlled, because it helps bring people into conversations, it's entertaining, it helps me create friendships. I think it's a positive thing, but it definitely can become bad when I'm in a work meeting and I say something inappropriate, or even if I'm in a social situation when somebody said something and I feel like a burning need to make a joke, and I have this choice of make the joke that the time has passed and it may offend people, that I'm kind of, it's self-centered, it really is, or I can not say it and it causes like physical discomfort. So that's sort of in that mid-level, but what I found is that that's something that's changeable. It's something that I can sort of fix and work on to get to the point where it's not gone, but I think to the point where it's definitely in the good category. So I put that in that box. Comedy goes in mid-level, changeable, very malleable. I'm not going to put all my traits in here, but you start seeing how I'm analyzing the traits. And I think what you find is you can kind of see some trends. So this concrete category, right over here, I mean, this is who you are. These are the constraints you have to work with. So you can't really work on these. I mean, they're concrete. I can kind of work. I'm not going to work on my speed. It's a good thing, but even if it was a bad thing, if I considered it concrete, that's something that I would work on in the distant future. And then, obviously the good things you don't want to work on because they're good things. I mean, maybe in the future, when you've got stuff taken care of, you start working on them to make them even better, but that's not your priority at the beginning. So this is sort of the sweet spot down here. And it kind of works your way up this way. You start down here. This is sort of the low-hanging fruit. It's stuff that's definitely bad, but it's easily changeable, and you sort of work your way up. And, you prioritize that based on what's affecting your life right now, the things that bother you more than other things. Your therapist will help with that. But this is sort of my point, is when you start looking at all these traits that play into what you consider your ADHD, then, and you look at it this way, you can kind of see if you're more focused up toward the top, and especially toward the concrete side, then that's who you are. Those really are character traits. I'm more focused down here, and some over here, but definitely on the lower third and some in the middle third. And I obviously, I can recognize my good traits, but because I'm more focused down here, I definitely consider it a disorder, and my therapist and psychiatrist agree with me. So I'll show it one more time. I think this is probably a good exercise for people who are considering whether they need to get help or want to get help or want to work on some aspects of it. But I think the other lesson to take from that is it may not be a disorder. That's okay. Maybe you still want to listen to me if I don't ramble too much and take some lessons out of it and fix some things. because they're good lessons for people who sort of have these character traits, the type A personalities, the fast personalities, people who tend to be very social but who have an introspective part of them too. And then the last thing I want to mention with it, and Andrew will also appreciate this because I know it's a theory he champions, is the idea of multiple intelligences. So school children nowadays are taught about multiple intelligence and are taught using the theories of multiple intelligence, which is that people learn in a variety of different ways. They process things in different ways. Some people are very visual, spatial. You look at things. Some people are logical or mathematical. You can, see the logic in things and it helps you process stuff. Verbal linguistic. You like using words. You like writing. You like speaking or hearing people speak. There's interpersonal and intrapersonal, whether you talk to other people or whether you like to sort of look within yourself. And I think that plays into things because I think we can maybe attribute some difficulties to attention issues or whatnot, but it may be that you just need to kind of assess which of those multiple intelligences, because there's going to be more than one, which of them are stronger in you, and work with that. So I guess the short answer to what Andrew was saying on my Facebook wall, or on the video that I posted in the Facebook comments, is that yeah, you're 100% correct. There is definitely a spectrum. I think you have to acknowledge that there's clearly an area where it's a disorder, where there's chemical issues, where there's nature and nurture kind of working together to put you under the 8 ball, and you probably need more help, but each person has to kind of make those decisions. And, frankly, what does it hurt to talk to a therapist, especially if you've got the insurance? Pay $25, go talk to a specialist, and get their opinion. And they may say, look, you don't need to be here, you can come back if you'd like. Then it's up to you, but at the very least, you got a second opinion. So, assuming you've got it to the point where it's a disorder, and the reason that I wanted to talk about the drugs today is because I just got to start my Adderall back up yesterday. I mentioned it in my first video. Because of the termination, there was an issue with the COBRA coverage, and basically the insurance didn't process it properly. But they got it processed, and I got my Adderall back after not being able to have it for about 3 weeks. And it was murder on me. I'm going to talk about some of the differences a little later on, but it caused major stress for me. It didn't help that I have a mood stabilizer that I ran out of about a week and a half after that. So I was just in really bad shape, and I realized how important the drugs are to me. And I can tell because in the past, even missing the drugs for one day, I just couldn't handle it. Again, I'll go into details there, but if I missed the drug, I didn't have to actually remember that I missed the drug because I could tell halfway through the day when I just couldn't handle certain things as well as I normally could, and it caused a lot of stress. And because I don't normally have that stress anymore, it was more obvious to me that I had it. So I realized how important Adderall is for me, and I think it can be important for a lot of people. So, but I know that there's a difficulty in taking that drug, and I had that difficulty, and those who know me really well probably can guess why. When I went to it was either my second or third year of college, the week that I was set to move, it was my second year, because I was moving into the dorm, and the week before, a couple days before actually, my brother passed away. He overdosed on prescription drugs. And it wasn't a shock. He had nearly overdosed 3 or 4 times the year before. But it's traumatic. My brother had a major drug problem for over a decade. And, we learned to deal with it. But drugs are something that I'm passionate about. So it's kind of a side topic, but all of you who talk about how marijuana should be legalized and kind of poo-poo the idea of a gateway drug, my brother didn't start with marijuana. He started with alcohol, which is, we don't even talk about that. I don't think alcohol is as bad as marijuana. Some people might disagree, but he went from alcohol to marijuana, and then it just took off. And, it really changed who he was, and it killed him eventually. And I still have, every now and then, flashbacks My mom was the one who found him, but she just glimpsed him, got a glimpse of him, and I still remember her screaming that he's dead, and it was kind of hard for me. And I was in the room next door, and I was kind of the man of the house. My dad had moved down to Texas. We were gonna move out of the house a couple days later too. So I mean, everything was pretty much packed up, and I had to go into the bedroom and kind of check and make sure that he was really dead, and it was rough. And so I can understand the reluctance to do drugs. I had it. I didn't want to end up like my brother. I have a terrible family history with addiction, and there are ways that I contribute to that. I'm addicted to barbershop in many ways. I'm addicted to fantasy sports in many ways. I show some of those same traits. And I consider those traits because I kind of try and harness them. But I guess the point is I was really scared to end up in that same boat. But what I realized, my older sister, who has some issues with drugs, I think, too, probably get in trouble for saying that. I know she has in the past, at least. And I'm proud of her for working through those in large part. But she talks about how, she talked about this when I had major back issues and didn't want to take the narcotics that were prescribed for me. And she said, look, you don't have to worry about addiction if you really need to take the drugs, because your body doesn't process them in the same way. It actually uses them for the right purpose. And it's when you start abusing them that you can create the addiction. So really, our family has a saying, better living through chemical dependency. And that's kind of where I come from is, you know what, I have a chemical issue in my brain. And because of that, when I take speed in the form of, the prescribed form, which is the right dosage for me, I don't process it like a bad drug. It makes me focus. So other people take speed and it, keeps them up all night and has them on edge, and, it's a great club drug, apparently. That's what I've been told. I take speed and I'm ready to read a good book. I'm sitting by the fireplace. I don't have to worry as much about the addiction. I still need to make sure that I don't fall into some of the traps, but I don't have to worry about it as much. So the simple truth is, they help, and they don't hurt, right? So why not take them and get that benefit? There are some drugs where you do have to consider how it changes your mood and your behavior. I haven't seen that with Adderall. All it does is put me in a position to succeed. And I am happy because I was really successful before I had it. I had a lot of the things that I wanted. I was working towards some of the things that I still wanted but didn't have, and I'm still working toward those. But I feel like a machine now. That's why, one of the reasons why I don't feel so bad about the termination is because the simple truth is I was doing a great job. And, obviously I was still making some mistakes, but I'm kind of a machine now. So why deprive yourself? Why should I deprive myself of that benefit? And one other thing to consider, a lot of people have reservations about drugs now because of side effects. And I don't know what the official side effects listed for Adderall are, and there's information. You can go look it up. There's percentages. You can get a really good picture, and I urge you not to just read a list of side effects and take all of them as gospel. Read them and find out how many people really saw it. Maybe there's some, maybe suicide is one of the side effects. I don't know. But it happened to a couple people, and it's barely statistically significant. Who knows? And that's a decision you have to make. But in my case, the thing to consider with the side effects is that there were some really positive side effects. Being off the Adderall for 3 weeks, my appetite went through the roof. Once I got back on the Adderall, it was controllable again. And I don't know if that's just a true side effect or if that's the Adderall helping me be more controlled, but I literally didn't feel the hunger. I didn't feel the need to eat as much. And another side effect supposedly is weight loss. So when you don't want to eat as much and the medicine is helping you burn off more weight, you get pretty good success. I lost 80 pounds over the course of less than a year. I feel so much better. I look better. I have more confidence. And I've started to dress better because of it, and it's helped my behavior. So there's some side effects. I'm sure that's not the only one that are actually good things. So really, my point is you got to get the full picture, and you can't be scared off because the word drug is there, the word speed is there. If you have a need for speed, you have a need, right? So take advantage of it. That's the point I want to make. And if I can say that, knowing that drugs are something that's sort of a major issue with me, then people who don't have a brother who died of an overdose should probably have an easier time, I would think. It's a good thing if you need it. Bottom line. So with that being said, obviously people who have ADHD are probably not as good at forming habits or following through on a daily routine, and that's definitely me. I had issues starting a couple years ago when I really went back to a dentist because I barely brushed my teeth in college. I never got into the habit, and then I never I never wanted to get up and do it. Some of it may have been laziness, but now I realized that ADHD really played into it. All of a sudden I had to go get a bunch of cavities filled, and I might have to have a root canal or two, and that's embarrassing. Understand that's hard for me to talk about because especially coming from Texas, my family doesn't live in a trailer park or, doesn't just live in a trailer park. My extended family owns the trailer park and the house at the top of the hill. It's like a castle looking down on our trailer park kingdom, and the stereotype is bad teeth. So it's hard for me to talk about it, but the simple truth is those daily habits were hard for me to form. The Adderall helps, but guess what? You don't benefit necessarily from the Adderall before you take it. It's a simple concept, but consider that, as far as I know, Adderall doesn't build up in your bloodstream. It wears off at a certain point. That's why you have to work through the dosages. Mine wears off in the afternoon. That's a subject for another day, how to deal with the Adderall wearing off, because that's actually a difficulty for me. But my point in bringing that up is you have to work to make sure that you take the Adderall in a good way. The termination was an example of a major issue for me because all of a sudden I went from getting up about the same time every morning and following a routine to get out the door to go to work, and I didn't have that anymore, and I forgot the Adderall a couple days. It's hard. So I guess what I would say is definitely form a good routine. So now I'm treating the job that I am working on finishing getting, odd situation, but I'm treating it as though it's a normal job outside the home. And what that means is that I'm establishing a routine again. And my routine is I get up in the morning and I eat breakfast. And eating breakfast is a good thing, I've found out. I never used to eat breakfast, but now I usually eat a little something, and it's not much, but it helps get the metabolism going. And Adderall, especially the extended release, works better when you've got food in your gut. When it's, it's processed in your stomach with food there too. It extends it and it sort of evens things out. So I eat some food. I have my medicines, my Adderall and my mood stabilizer, sitting on top of my microwave. And I don't always use the microwave, but I'm always walking past it. So it's a little reminder, hey, you got to take this. It's a simple routine, but it's what I need to do to make sure that I take the Adderall. Before, when I was commuting, that gave me some time. The commute gave time for the Adderall to kick in, and then by the time I got to work, I'd usually had about 10 or 15 minutes with the Adderall working pretty well, where I'd organize my thoughts and my plans and my priorities and the mental and emotional issues for that day. And to make sure I have that time now, then I usually do a couple things. Maybe I'll go play a quick video game, knowing I have a limit, and once the Adderall kicks in, I'm better sticking to that limit. Or I'll do a video like I'm doing this morning. But that's part of the routine, and it helps me get where I need to be in order to work. One other topic I want to hit is, I mentioned the termination. When you break out of your normal routine, you have to think about how to maintain that habit. In my case, I'm going to use a term that my good friend Jim Franklin, who I unfortunately just got out of a quartet with. That quartet ended. But great guy, very wise guy. He gave me the name for this, or he gave me this term. The term is Smitwiths. It's the little pill containers where you've got a compartment for every day. If you look at it, I guess his son, when he was learning to read, put the letters together, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, so on and so forth, and called it a Smitwifs, and now that's what I call it. So I have a Smitwifs, and anytime I travel, whether it's for work or personally, or for barbershop or anything else, I fill that Smitwifs for the whole duration of the trip. And that way, I know I'm going to have a harder time remembering whether I took the medicine. I could pop open my day, see, oh, man, I missed my day. And if I can still get the medicine in time, I will. If I miss the Adderall, I've got little boosters, and I can take one of those, especially if I have something important. And if it's just me and my wife and my daughter, and we're doing something relaxing, then I may say I don't need the Adderall. I wanna go without it for a day. But most likely I take it. It puts me in a much better place. So Smitwifs helps me when I'm traveling. And so once I take the Adderall, there's a huge difference. I want to talk just real quick about the difference. I know I'm just over a half an hour right now. Hope that's not too bad for you, but the differences are huge for me. And there's different changes short term and long term. So short term, let's say I miss my medicine, my Adderall especially, for one day. What changes do I see? Well, first of all, the anxiety comes back. Remember, anxiety is a big part of my ADHD. I start worrying about things that either I don't need to worry about, or maybe I do need to worry about them, but not as much, or I need to worry about them now because by not taking the Adderall, I'm spending time worrying and not spending time getting that stuff done. But that anxiety ruins my day. I can't deal with challenges nearly as well. So I forgot my Adderall one time when I was up in Canada helping put together a prototype or a trade show booth with a bunch of lighting on it, and it was just a terrible day. Well, once I realized I didn't take the Adderall, I put together a plan that night and made sure to take my Adderall the next day and tackled every challenge, and we were in great shape all of a sudden. I have much more paranoia when I don't have the Adderall. I worry about the things that I'm saying. I start second-guessing everything I say, like, oh, they probably think I'm an idiot. Oh, they hate me for having said that. My punctuality immediately is gone, just gone. And my focus is obviously gone. And like I said, it just ruins my day. It ruins my day. That's the bottom line. Unless I'm just relaxing, if I have anything to do or get done, boom, my day is ruined. Long term, there are new issues that sort of come up, and that's what I discovered now, having 3 weeks without it. The worst one is I got insomnia, and I've never had real insomnia before. I've had a night or two of issues going to sleep, but like this morning, I didn't get to sleep till 4:30, and I didn't get up particularly late yesterday, and I had a good busy day, and I didn't take a nap, and I was tired at night, but I just could not fall asleep. Couldn't get my brain to shut off. Couldn't, just get over anything. And that's after having taken the Adderall that day. It was taking me some time to get used to everything again. The mood stabilizer may contribute to that, but the point is, all of a sudden I can't sleep. And I hate it. I have mood issues. Now, I have manic depression, and not everyone has that. And again, the mood stabilizer, not having that, I'm sure contributes, but the Adderall plays a big part in that. Even when I was just taking Adderall, before I took the mood stabilizer, my mood suddenly became a little more controlled, and the manic and depressive episodes weren't nearly as bad. And that's common when you have multiple mental issues. You get one in control, and you can start getting the others in control. And now I've got the ADHD and the manic depression in control, and the OCD is nearly gone, and the fourth issue I have, which involves scratching and picking at myself and pulling hairs out, again, a little embarrassing to talk about, but I want to share that with you. That issue is pretty much gone. I still do it subconsciously, but now it's more out of habit, and I don't cut myself up or hurt myself like I used to. And, just in general, when I don't take the medicine for an extended period of time, I spiral out of control again. And that's the bottom line that I want to put to the whole thing. I've said that a few times now. But sort of the big picture of this whole talk is that you need to be careful when you start critiquing the idea of taking drugs or the idea of getting therapy. Go talk to a therapist and get a second opinion, because you don't know where you're at, and you don't know the benefits that you may be missing out on with the drugs. Now, I'm not encouraging you to go get drugs if you don't need it. You wouldn't be able to anyway. They're highly controlled. But what I'm saying is be open to the help that you need. And if you need drugs, take the drugs. Adderall really has helped turn me into a machine, and more importantly, into a happier person, a better husband, a better father, a better barbershop singer, a better, more productive member of society, and a better worker. So why deprive yourself of that? So, Ashley York with ADHD, send me ideas for names for this, because I think I'm going to keep going with it. I'm enjoying it, and I think people might be benefiting from it. Get the word out that these are here to anyone you know who might have ADHD or know people who have it and want to learn better how to deal with it. And yeah, send me some names. The current favorite, I think, is I have ADHD, what's your excuse? So thanks everyone. Let's get some good discussion going. Maybe, probably not going to get a lot of people watch it, but maybe. So thank you. I've gotten a lot of benefit out of this just talking about it. Hope you did too. Have a good day.